Have you tried to cold call the C-suite of Fortune 500 lately? I don't think that's going to work that great. Should you just completely shut it down? No, you don't need to completely shut it down. You just need to use it in combination with all of these other things. I don't really want to go start something new again as a VP of sales and work for some 23-year-old who's telling me how things are supposed to be and, make more calls or whatever. I can't. I can't. I just couldn't take it. There's an active war every other day between Zen, Scott, and all shut down consulting and everything you're doing. Take all this money you have and go try to build.
I'm just curious, I was looking at your LinkedIn and you have 75 experiences or something. And it looked like you actually started out kind of in our world. I saw you had done some advertising agency sales. Did I get that wrong?
A little bit wrong maybe, but we sold kind of advertising services stuff for search engine way back in the day. I also sold lead generation tools for real estate agents and automotive dealers. There was a period of time where we sold social media marketing and reputation management for small businesses all across the country, email stuff. I mean, the early part of my career was heavy into marketing, advertising, sales, services, stuff like that.
When did you go from doing, being a sales leader inside of companies or being a salesperson to being a consultant?
Well, I started doing both probably 2014, 15, something like that. That I didn't go all in on myself until 5 years ago.
Okay.
So I started October of 2019.
Oh, nice.
So I had 3 months of normalcy and then COVID hit. And I remember thinking, oh, this could be tough. I might not be on my own for very long. And interestingly enough, I think I got a little bit of a spike,
That's interesting.
from it and ended up doing quite well. So it's been a little over 5 years now that I've been on my own.
Okay, nice. And what prompted it? Why do you want to go out on your own?
I don't know how to say this super delicately, so I'm just going to say it. At some point in time, you just get tired of taking orders and instructions from other people. And at that point in time, I'd been a VP of sales 6 times. I had a couple exits. The company that I was at was rocking and rolling and is going to end up being the largest exit that I ever have one day. And a pretty life-changing sum. And so I just sort of felt what is there left for me to prove by continuing down this path? I don't really want to go start something new again as a VP of sales and work for some 23-year-old who's telling me how things are supposed to be and, make more calls or whatever. I can't. I can't fucking... I just couldn't take it, and you get a little bit jaded about things. And it was just time. And I had always told myself that once I kind of leveled out my side hustle money with my W-2 money, that was when I'd walk away. And so I was making as much on the side coaching and consulting in my moonlighting hours as I was in my full-time gig. So that the confluence of all those events was screw it. Now's the time. I'll give myself a year. If I don't enjoy it or I fail at it, no big deal. It shouldn't be that hard for me to go get another VP of sales job. And so, that was a moment.
Nice. How did you get the first few clients? I mean, was it, I see you posting a lot about relationship selling or kind of selling your network. I imagine being a VP of sales for a long time, probably that's where they came from. But what'd that look like?
It came from a combination of a referral network via other founders that I had worked with or for, and some of their friends who were starting companies, and then from some of the venture capital folks who had funded the companies that I helped grow and scale, they had other portfolio companies that they, wanted to connect with me and say, hey, you should talk to this guy, Scott. He scaled sales for such and such company. Maybe he can help you guys. So it was very much direct referrals in the beginning. And then it started to grow into more kind of direct outreach, inbound stuff through like LinkedIn and my brand and my content and events that I put on and show up to and things like that. So I've never been, kind of outbound cold prospecting, trying to drum up consulting business. It's all been an inbound kind of flow and word of mouth flow.
Given, you've done the sort of hyper growth company thing, like you're saying, I'm curious, what's your ambition for your consulting business? Like, do you want to sort of like systematize? I don't know too much about your business, so like, do you want to systematize it and grow a team? Is it, you just kind of want to do it yourself and I don't know, keep raising rates until the hourly is nuts and never scale up beyond yourself? Or like, what is that? I mean, how do you think of scale now in your consulting practice?
I don't, is the answer. I spend my whole life having to worry about scale and doing more and being bigger and bigger and bigger. And I sort of consciously decided, well, one of the best parts of being your own boss is I don't have to do that if I don't want to. Yeah. So I have no grand designs on having a team of any sort. I mean, my first 2 years, I was completely on my own. But the last 3 years, I have one employee. She handles all of our RevOps work for our clients. Yeah. And that's it. I had worked with her for 10 years or so. The idea of trying to pull in other people that can, be as impactful as she is and easy to work with terrifies me. Yeah. I just don't really have an interest in it. And I've been at more or less the same kind of level for 5 years now, doing somewhere between 1.5 and 2.5 million a year with 2 employees, me and one other employee, which is like I don't know, it's 93% margin or something like that last year. It's just like, I'm pretty happy, Yeah, and you couple that with, I have a lot of equity in this last company that hopefully one day has a big exit. And I've got a lot of equity in probably like 50 other companies, So I just sort of like, I'm pretty cool where I'm at right now. I don't have a desire to grow to a 5, 10, $20 million consulting agency, build a big team. I'm not really here for that, just kind of keep doing what I've been doing, ride it out, have a good balance of helping people, helping myself, enjoying life. And we'll see.
It makes a lot of sense, right? Like you're post-economic, you don't need the money. You got a great thing going. Like, how do you think about goal setting? Like, what are your goals? Is it just purely sort of like lifestyle driven? You want to do what you want to do every day and delete the stuff you don't like to do, or like you don't need to do it at all, right?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I'm still torn between two worlds. I don't want it to, when you're geared in such a way to like go, scale, do more all the time, right? And I've been that way since I was a kid. It's very like achievement focused, productivity focused. I mean, I played 2 sports all the way through college. I got a full ride to even got me into school to play sports. And you don't just like completely shut that off. Like I'm trying. It's like an active effort on my part to like chill out, not try to chase more, do more, be comfortable with myself and shift some of my focus and goals. There's an active war every other day between Zen Scott and like, fuck it all, shut down consulting and everything you're doing, take all this money you have and go try to build something that's like forever legacy, absolute next level of like economic platform. And there's a war inside of me between those things. Right now the Zen version is kind of winning, and we'll see how long that victory lasts. But I'm trying. My goals that I set for myself now is how can I continue to kind of earn what I'm earning, impact as many people as I'm impacting, while maybe not working as much.
Yeah,
And,
makes sense.
I already know what I can do if I work 80 hours a week. Yeah, I could make more than I do now, for sure. But I'm 47 years old now. I got 2 teenagers. Yeah, I don't really want to work 80 hours a week. I want to go to their band performances. I want to go to their soccer games. I want to take some time to myself and make sure that I'm exercising and working out and taking surf trips. I mean, this year, I have surf trips planned so far this year in San Diego, Australia, New Zealand, Portugal, Costa Rica. Those are the ones that are planned. Never mind any like spur of the moment wild hair stuff. If like Max invites me to Puerto Rico to come,
Yeah, dude, when are you coming to Puerto
surfing
Rico?
or stuff like that, right? So like, and I'm just enjoying the benefits of all the work that I put in and being self-employed and being able to work from anywhere and things like that. So I'm trying to. Haven't abandoned all of my old self and old goals, but I'm trying to lean into a different setting of goals as I mature, as they say, or age. It's probably more accurate.
Yeah, it's interesting talking to you about this because I'm like so on the other side of this coin. We're building the consulting business and trying to scale it as, I don't want to say as quickly as we can. I mean, I think that we've taken a lot of steps where probably we could have scaled it faster, but we made the choice to kind of focus more on building the team and making sure that we have really high retention and we deliver really good quality. And if that puts us a year or two back on growing it, it's a bootstrap business. We're not at 93% margin, but we're still at whatever 40% margin or something pretty healthy. Like it doesn't need to be this triple double kind of thing. But it is definitely like I'm more on the 80 hours a week kind of thing and trying to figure out how I can do a little more of, I guess, what you're doing, not necessarily to step out of it, but to free up time to go do other things and hire a team and do all that stuff.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's a season that you have to go through. I mean, I did that for 15 something years, I don't want anybody to get the impression that there's a way to just, work this 4-hour work week your whole life and be a fucking gazillionaire. Like, that's not my reality, and it's
kind of, I mean, I think Tim Ferriss even talks about that with the 4-hour work week that everyone misunderstood it as.
He didn't start off that way.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you take the 4-hour work week approach, but you work 40 hours a week and then you do that for a while and then your output's really high. As you're kind of, I don't know how to say it. Like, I don't want to say you're like easing off, right? Like I don't get the vibe that you're like sort of like over there coasting, but and that's not what I mean with this question, but I'm curious, like as you get maybe out of the trenches a little bit, you're still consulting for these companies. How do you practically speaking keep your finger on the pulse? I mean, this sales is changing super fast. You're consulting for businesses that are, growing really quickly. How do you stay on top of it?
Is you commit yourself to staying on top of it. So, that if I used to work 80 hours a week and now I work 40 hours a week, it's not like I'm playing golf those additional 40 hours a week. It gives me time to research, to learn, to play around with certain tools or tactics or whatever, right? So it's just a commitment to staying involved in the game. But the thing that keeps me the most sharp is just what you said. I mean, at any point in time, I have 10 or 12 clients that I'm coaching and advising, right? All of them are going to be in different industries. They're going to have different sales cycles, different products, different segments and buyer personas that you're selling to. So it's like my skills are freaking sharp. Like, I don't care who comes my way. I mean, I can figure out how to sell XYZ thing, right? And I'm working with people from all over the world.
Right.
So I'm working on prospecting into Germany At the same time, I'm working on prospecting into New York City, and we're selling advertising services here, and I'm selling scrap metal software over here. You know what I mean? I mean, like that to me
totally.
is the epitome of keeping my skill set sharp. And again, the notion that it's taking your foot off the gas a little bit, it's very relative, you know? I mean, most people don't get done what I get done. I also run this venture capital firm with my brother. We've been investing in really cool kind of late stage companies and some early stage companies. And then I run this coaching cohort. I actually coach 56 VPs of sales and CROs right now. And I have a real estate business. So I'm actively am running 5 businesses at once, right? On top of continuing to create content on LinkedIn every single day. In the last few weeks, for the first time ever, I've kind of committed myself to try and diversify across platforms. And I've been more active on TikTok and Instagram, and you get good. It doesn't take you like 4 hours to do something anymore. It takes you like 15 minutes. If you said to me, okay, Scott, we want some help like reworking our sales pitch, okay? Well, it used to take half a day to figure that out and rehearse it and whatnot. Now I'm like, all right, tell me what you do. Give me like a little
it's pattern recognition. So you've just done it so many times.
You give the illusion a little bit that you're not working as much, you're not working as hard, but it's just the knowledge is there, you know? Yeah, exactly. It's like
the work changes.
It's the same argument that people have if they try to tell you, they want to work with you on an hourly basis and whatnot. It's like, you don't want to do that. You don't want to incentivize me to go slow and work more.
To work more.
Like you want the work product
exactly.
at the highest quality and you want it now. So you should actually be paying me more the faster I deliver this thing to you, right?
It's like, have you heard the story of it's like the submarine captain whose sub broke down and they couldn't get it fixed. They call in the first repair crew or whatever, and they come in and they're like, oh, it's the electrical system. And they go spend weeks going through the electrical system, and weeks go by and nothing happens, and the captain's all pissed off. And then they call in another crew, and the other crew comes in, and they're like, oh, it's the engine or whatever. And they go and spend a few weeks taking the engine apart, putting it back together, and nothing works. And all this is going on. And the first mate goes to the captain. He's like, well, we can call the old man. He's really expensive. We can call the old man. Captain's like, we'll call whoever, right? And this old man shows up with his little toolbox. He walks around the engine room, and he like knocks on some shit and looks around. He comes back and he goes, okay, I can fix your submarine, but it's going to cost you $1 million. And no matter what happens, if I fix it, you pay me. And Captain's like, yeah, man, we've been in the dock for weeks. I'll pay you whatever. And the old man pulls out a wrench and knocks on this and turns the screw, and 15 minutes later he comes back and he's like, fire it up. And the captain's like, balks at him. There's no way the sub's gonna work now. But sure enough, he turns the ignition or whatever you have on a submarine, and it fires right up. And the captain's like, there's no way I'm paying you $1 million. You were only here for 15 minutes. And the guy's like, you're not paying me for the 15 minutes I was here. You're paying me for the 30 years it took to know what screw turned.
Exactly the analogy that is perfect for that story. Yeah.
How, you said something there that was really interesting, which I resonate with, because one of the reasons we started Opuscope is that, and my brother's my co-founder. We started Opuscope because, we're entrepreneurial. We wanted to start a business, but we didn't want to go raise venture capital, and we didn't necessarily have a product idea. And we're like, okay, well, we need to start where Alex had the performance marketing skills. And the way we looked at it was just, we can go get inside of 10, 20, 50, 100 companies. And no matter what happens, we're going to learn a ton, and we're going to see all these different things. And, for that reason, we kind of like never niche down. And I think it's really interesting how you go and you can kind of find the patterns across these very different industries and kind of find your own secrets, I guess, in a way, And I'm curious right now, I don't know if it's AI or if it's something else, but what are the patterns that you see working across all these different industries, all these different company types? Like, what stands out as far as the ones that have the highest performing sales teams, where it just looks easy and they're crushing it?
Yeah, it's a good question. First of all, there's less of those teams in the last couple of years than in previous years. That probably comes as no surprise to anybody. I would say that these teams have really leaned into relationships and referrals and network and brand and content creation, just creating their own kind of demand gen funnel on a rep basis, on a founder basis, and on a company basis. I don't see companies pounding out, 500 dials a week and, blasting 5,000 emails a week, having tons of success, or really, frankly, even moderate success right now. The game has like completely changed. People just don't use the telephone as a utility the way they used to. Everybody's email inbox is like a disaster, and people trying to protect it at all costs. It's just really so hard to break through the noise. So, you see people figuring out ways to scale referrals. They're building affiliate programs. They're connecting with influencers and doing influencer marketing. They're, hosting podcasts, appearing on podcasts, creating content every single day. And that founder-led sales motion is really more of a founder brand, thought leadership kind of motion. And you're playing the long game of like, oh, who's this guy Max? Oh, this content is interesting. Oh, he's talking about these things. Oh, I'm going to engage with him a few times. And then eventually I'm like, what does this company actually do? And I dig in and I'm like, oh shit, I kind of need that thing. And then a few weeks later, a few months later, I message Max and I'm like, hey man, been following you on LinkedIn, dig your content, have some questions. I've been thinking about doing XYZ. You got time to chat? And there's an inbound lead for you.
Right.
Or it's me, wanting to sell to you. You're a prospect of mine. And I'm like, I can't get this guy's attention. He's not going to look at his email or pick up the phone or whatever. Who do I know that knows Max? And I've got 118,000 followers on LinkedIn. And I'm like, somebody out here knows Max, right? And so I find a way to get in touch with somebody who knows you well enough to make an intro, and you sign them up for, an affiliate kind of deal, or they're getting paid 10, 20, 30%, on the revenue, first year's ARR, if that deal closes. These types of things are what people are doing at scale that are really starting to work. And then you couple that with everybody at the moment trying to figure out all the different ways to utilize AI and automations, and it's sort of here but coming soon, just like AI agents, all this kind of stuff. Right? How can we make ourselves more efficient, a little faster, a little more targeted, better prepared, stuff like that.
Do you think cold calling, cold emailing, like, it's funny. I was scrolling X the other day and I saw some guy that was super pissed off at you for something. It was a thread you posted about like firing your cold dialers, and I thought it was kind of funny. But do you see it as completely dead? You shouldn't invest anything in it, or is it more just maybe it's not as big of a channel? I mean, like I'll share my bias. Like it works pretty well for us. So but I'm always trying to find new channels and ways that we could do it more efficiently. So I was really interested to kind of see where the kind of nuance is in your view on this.
Yeah, I don't think anything's completely shut off and dead. None of the channels, but it's inarguable that it doesn't work as well as it used to.
For sure.
And then there's nuances between types of businesses that you're in. Right. I mentioned something about real estate earlier. Okay, real estate agents still pick up the phone. They live and die on the telephone. So if we're selling stuff to real estate agents, cold calling is going to be fine. Have you tried to cold call the C-suite of Fortune 500 lately?
Yeah, seriously.
I don't think that's going to work that great. Right. Should you just completely shut it down? No, you don't need to completely shut it down. You just need to use it in combination with all of these other things.
Right.
Because everybody's different. There's going to be people who do pick up the phone, do respond to email, do respond to direct mail, do show up at events. You just don't know. It used to just be everybody will respond to email. So we'll email people.
Right.
Now it's not that way. So
Right.
again, it requires a deeper level of understanding of who am I trying to sell to, right? Like if you call my cell phone right now, Max, my voicemail says, I never check my voicemail. You're going to have to text me. Don't leave a voicemail. Don't send me an email. Text me, right? So if you know that about me, you've never heard my voicemail before, but you know that about me now because I've just set it on camera, right? So if you're trying to prospect me and you're leaving me voicemails, you're an idiot.
But you're hitting your
deserve what's
productivity metrics and outreach or whatever.
Yeah, cool. Good story. Yeah, you got your sales manager off your back because your productivity number. But it's stupid, right? So you have to pay attention, and you can learn a lot and learn it way faster and easier now than ever before because of content people are putting out there. Because of all these different tools, right? You can do research in 2.5 seconds and say, hey, show me any quotes from Max in the last 2 years where he talks about how he prefers to be communicated with.
Right.
Right. And if information comes back and it's like, well, 3 times in the last 2 years, Max has said that he hates email and prefers the phone. I'm not emailing Max. Right.
Yeah.
So is it completely dead? No, but I do think it's dying. Right. And I do think that when today's teenagers become executives and buyers and whatnot, so that's 5 to 10 years, it's very difficult for me to imagine a world where my teenagers are cold calling people or taking cold calls. They don't interact as humans the same way that we interact. They just don't. They don't use the phone at all. They don't use email at all. They don't care about humans buy from humans. That sentence drives me nuts. People will always want to buy from people. No, they won't.
Yeah.
I already don't as much as I used to. And I'm 47 years old.
Totally.
My kids don't want anything to do with talking to a person before buying something. They want to buy everything online.
Yeah.
They do their own research. They don't want to talk to somebody. It's a barrier to entry. And I just think that narrative is being produced by people who didn't grow up that way, who are terrified of their livelihood going away, their profession going away, and they're scared. And people who are scared do one of two things. They either put their head in the sand like an ostrich and pretend it's not happening, right? Or they get super pissed off and they start coming at you with the claws out and they want to tear you down because you're scaring them.
Yeah,
I get it. I get it. You know, they're talking about something that might make their job hard or potentially completely non-existent and eradicated. And that's terrifying. And I understand.
If you're thinking about, this is one that I'm interested in your take on because it's something that I experienced, which is like there's a lot of people who will say, and I agree with you. Like, I think that if you're trying to sell, it makes sense to invest in creating content and build your brand and make it so that people just see your stuff and come across it without you necessarily reaching out to them. But I'm curious, like when we started Opuscope, like I didn't have any marketing background and I was basically just the SDR for the first 2 years. That's what I did. I just emailed people all day long. And it was really challenging because I didn't fundamentally know all that much about performance marketing at the time. So it was pretty hard to make a business case. And you'll see a lot of this stuff about how like salespeople need to make content and you need to understand the business case of the buyer. And that's frankly really hard if you're a 24-year-old starting in sales to understand what a VP of whatever or a C level of whatever cares about. What do you think for those people? Like if you're starting in sales and all these cold channels are getting a lot harder and your view is that it's much more about relationships and creating content. What do you do when you don't have any relationships or you don't really have subject matter expertise because you're just kind of getting started?
Well, you start actively building your network with what you do. You know, you made this kind of joke a minute or two ago about, you hit your activity numbers at least, right? Well, you know what? One of the new KPIs that matter needs to be is your network growth. So if I was running a sales team right now, I would be giving you a daily network growth goal. Like your job is to add 15 to 20 new people per day to your network. Okay. You do that for 4 years or so, you probably have a 20,000 person network on LinkedIn. Worst case scenario.
Right.
So you have to get started with it. I talked to this college the other day, and I was telling these kids in this student union, sales student union club, or whatever the heck they're called, and none of them really have a LinkedIn presence. And I was telling them it's a shame that nobody in their university, none of their professors are telling them, like, you better start building a network right now.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's
And
crazy. I mean, this is like I had that when I was a kid. When I was in college, I wanted to be an investment banker, and I was like went to a little liberal arts school, and I was never going to get an investment banking job through an application because they recruit from a certain number of target schools and all that. And that's how I basically learned how to cold email, because I just emailed all these analysts and VPs and whatever. And the thing that blew me away is when you are in college and when you're young and you don't have anything to sell, the caliber of people that'll just get on the phone with you is insane. It is such a hack. Like, if any college kid is listening to this podcast, I beg of you to just go on LinkedIn and make a list of every public company CEO you can find and email them, because you will be shocked how many of them will just get on the phone and talk to you if you approach them asking for advice. It's like, you ask for a favor, you get advice, ask for advice, you get a favor kind of thing. Like, that is so true. And it is such a small window that college kids and young people can take advantage of in general.
yeah, that's all effort and deep research, you know, and honestly, that research is easier now than it's ever been. At 2 clicks of a button, I can know everything about what a company's going through. Summarize somebody's quarterly earnings call for me,
Yeah.
right? What is on their mind? What's their pain points? What are the things that a VP of sales struggles with in 2025 that they didn't struggle with in 2010, right? You used to have 100 conversations to source this information. You don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
So it's a bit of a cop out and a little bit of a lack of commitment. You have to you still have to be a student of the game. You should still be reading books
Right.
about sales, about leadership, listening to shows like this to get information and try to learn something. You can't just expect a robot and AI to do every single thing for you still right now. Like, we're not there yet. We might end up there, but we're not there yet. Right? So
Totally. Are there any AI use cases that you've seen that have just blown you away in terms of, like, these companies you work with? Is there anything you've seen that has given you that kind of like holy shit moment?
It's been a while since I had a holy shit kind of moment. You know, in the beginning, just AI being able to write any kind of content for you at all was like, holy shit. But that was 5 years ago, you know.
Yeah.
I don't really have this oh wow moment with automations and workflows and like auto respond me. I don't really love all of that kind of stuff. I think the role play technology with AI is pretty cool, especially because salespeople just don't get as much practice anymore because it's harder to get people on the phone. Yeah, the mock
Oh,
call
like the
stuff,
mock
I
call and
think
stuff and that kind of
is
thing.
interesting, you know. But yeah, I can get real sci-fi and techie, but you know, when there's, I think everybody's just waiting for a robot in their house to like do their laundry and dishes for them every day. That'll be a oh wow, we've made it moment. Like I forget
Not
the
here for
robot's
that.
name in the Jetsons, but it's like that old cartoon, the Jetsons. They had like a robot, you know, doing all their chores for them and stuff like that. That'll be a oh shit moment.
Yeah. The Tesla Optimus will be a holy shit moment, not some widget for
exactly.
sales research.
Exactly. I don't think that, the general public doesn't care that AI can do sales research for you and help you find a better prospecting list, right? That's not
Yeah.
as exciting as something that can help everybody.
Do you use AI tools a lot, like in
Not a
your
lot.
day to day?
Not a lot, you know. A little bit of like a little bit of research, a little bit of fact finding, information gathering type stuff. We use it more for clients. You know, we do a lot of RevOps consulting and automation and workflow and things like that, working with Clay and HubSpot and different Gong and different tools like this. So I kind of use more on behalf of our clients than I even use for myself, frankly.
You mentioned earlier that that you're working across a lot of different industries. Is there a commonality in terms of stage, or are you pretty varied? Like your clients, are they fairly varied in terms of size?
I've primarily focused on this like 0 to 25 million sprint. So I've been that like Series A, Series B guy. There's a lot of go-to-market consultants and sales coaches out there, obviously. There's very few who have done this 0 to 25 million sprint as many times successfully as I have. I did 6 times as an operator. I think I've worked with 160 or so companies in the last 5+ years. I've had 13 exits now, and 12 different unicorns that I've worked with. So I've got a pretty good track record of doing this thing. I don't think I'm the guy that Apple calls to like turn around a struggling sales division or something like that. Like that's just not my thing. But industry agnostic. But the stage, I prefer the early stage. I like helping people figure out how to get things off the ground.
From 0 to 25, what are the breakpoints? And tell me if you would disagree, but like in our business, for example, I remember getting to like 500K in ARR felt really difficult. And then it kind of got maybe a little easier, and then it gets harder again. And I've heard people throw around that like 3 million is a really hard hurdle to get through, and then it's easy until 10 or whatever. And these are probably arbitrary, but you having seen it a lot of times, what are the hardest stages or the inflection points?
As an operator, for me, it was 0 to 2.5 million. That was what I was trying to do inside of a year to a year and a half. And no, I mean,
in your consulting business or in past lives,
right? So if I show up and there's 0, I'm thinking a year to a year and a half from now, I better be at like 2.5 million ARR. That's what I wanted. And then it's just about quadrupling it. It's getting to 10 million to me. And then from there, it's getting to 25. So there was always this like 3 kind of phases for me. It's 0 to 2.5, and then 2.5 to 10, and then 10 to 25. Those were the things that mattered to me the most as an operator. And working across way more companies, 6 as an operator is very different than 160 as a consultant. What I would now say is 0 to 1 is the place where the most people fail. They just can't get to a million. They can't successfully do founder-led selling. From there, that 1 to 5 million marker, where you're first scaling and you're adding on team members and really kind of systematizing things and building out some operational rigor and good process. That's the next kind of mile marker, if you will. And then 10 million from there, and then 20 and 25, from there. Those are the big kind of milestone moments, I think, the choke points where things break down.
I'm curious to get get a little free consulting here, but like we're I guess halfway through the second phase there. Like we're around 5 and trying to get to 10, and we don't have really any formal sales team, right? We hired a head of sales who's very talented, but we don't have any SDRs or anything like that. A lot of our business has just been really healthy word of mouth, a lot of referrals, and we've been able, not that we've been ignoring our own prospecting, but there's just been enough there that we haven't had to build it super fast. And now we're kind of trying to scale up all the other channels, not all at once, but really getting prospecting going again. I mean, the first 2 years I was doing a lot of prospecting. We've had to do less of it the last 3 and get these things going. Like what would be generally speaking, I'm curious, what would be your advice, or what would be the things that for founders that have been in my position here, the things that maybe they're not thinking about that you would say, hey, here are some things you need to have on your mind, whether it's in terms of hiring or strategy or anything.
I don't know if you're not thinking about it or you just haven't got to it or haven't been able to prioritize it, but certainly diversifying platform success So you've been done a really good job of word of mouth and referrals, let's say. Okay. You can only scale that maybe so far before you have to succeed doing outbound, for example, right? So you brought on this head of salesperson. Now part of their charge is probably to help figure out outbound, right? Well, a lot of people struggle to figure out outbound. So getting good at more than one channel is part of the choke point. You hired this head of sales. I don't know who this person is, and I hope they don't get too pissed off, but like, this person better figure it out, because one of the choke points, possibly the biggest choke point, is moving yourself, extracting yourself from the process and entrusting somebody else to lead this process of building pipeline, closing deals, or whatever, teaching it to somebody else, right?
Totally.
So that is a scaling personnel problem and a recruiting problem, and surrounding yourself with the right talent. So that person better know how to execute as an individual contributor on their own, while also knowing, how do I build a playbook and a framework that other people could follow if I, A, get hit by a bus, and B, if Max tells me to go hire 10 people because he wants to grow at an astronomical rate. I better be able to have a process in place that all these new people that I hire in can figure out and succeed, because I've simplified it in such a way that it's easy to follow, right? And the last choke point is probably just all data. It's all data and tracking. It's, are we monitoring the right KPIs? Are we surfacing the right insights from that data? Are we doing something about it? You know, are we working on metrics like our speed to lead, our average deal size, reducing our sales cycle, shrinking the amount of work our sales teams, do and try to spend on CRM and data input, and just like wasteful motion from salespeople that they could be spending actually selling,
Right.
for example. So those are the three big buckets in your stage of the game.
I'm curious, given what you've said about kind of outbound cold calling getting more challenging, what hires would you be thinking about in our situation? Like, if you're, or more generally, are you hiring junior SDRs? Are you trying to hire more of a full cycle AE type of person who can prospect and close deals? Like, what are the first 2, 3, 4 humans that you're going to try and put in a seat?
Well, I've gone on record many times before saying I've never instituted nor liked the SDR AE model. I never did it. I always had full cycle salespeople. Every company that I ever built myself.
Okay.
For a million different reasons that I don't need to get into here, because that could be its own podcast. So I would be trying to find full cycle salespeople. I think it depends on who you're selling to and what you're selling, the level of experience somebody needs to have. I don't mind hiring junior level people or inexperienced people, because they're a clean slate. It's like clay and Play-Doh that I can mold, right? I can teach them to be exactly what I want them to be. But I'm a teacher. I consider myself a teacher, an educator, and a coach. So I'm willing to invest that time. A lot of people struggle because they hire junior level people, but they don't want to invest the time to coach them. So they hire junior level people, but they have a hands-off approach, as if they had somebody with 15 years of sales experience in the seat, and it falls apart. So I think that they should have prospecting experience. I think that they should enjoy it. I think they should have full cycle kind of pipeline management experience, as well as closing deal experience. I think that they should understand modern sales tactics and technologies. I think they should have a presence on social and be actively building a brand and creating content and networking like hell. I think they should be active in micro communities and micro events and stuff like that. That's the type of salesperson that I would be trying to hire. I don't need to hire somebody who has done nothing but call from a boiler room their whole life. And I don't want to hire somebody who's done nothing but sit around and wait for warm leads to show up on their desk.
How do you think about compensation models for salespeople? And if you're hiring the first sales team, figuring out quota and targets and, how you're going to incentivize people, and just like, what questions are you asking, or do you have any rules of thumb on that?
Well, usually my rule of thumb would be to be very transparent with people and just say, we actually don't really know what's possible. I have an idea of what these conversion metrics should look like based on what they've looked like for me.
Right.
But it's not a perfect science. You might say, I'm not even a salesperson by trade, so my numbers might be terrible. You might be able to say, I only did this 25% of the time. If I was doing it full time, 100% of the time, my numbers might look like this instead. So I think you have to bring somebody on board who's comfortable with some ambiguity and some adjustments. Like, this is what I think the goal is. But if it turns out that goal is way too aggressive or way too conservative, then we're going to adjust, right? And try to find the sweet spot where everybody thinks it's fair. And not everybody's comfortable with that. Not everybody's flexible like that from a founder standpoint. I used to do things also not really worry about somebody's revenue they bring in initially and worry a lot more about pipeline. So in the beginning, like, I'm not comping people on closed revenue. I'm comping people on pipeline added, or this pipeline versus quota ratio, like 3-to-1, 5-to-1, 10-to-1
Right.
type of a thing. And I slowly sort of wean them off comping on these softer metrics and start to more heavily weight revenue the longer they've been there. So it's like ramping kind of compensation type of thing. But I believe in paying people really well on the sales side. I don't believe in skimping on talent. I don't believe in trying to pay somebody $10 an hour and, it's like low base, high commission or commission only or anything like that. You want somebody to be really good, then freaking incentivize them, pay them what they're worth.
100%. I was trying to think what's like a nice segue, but I'm curious, like, is there in this, the audience we're going for here is like founders, people building companies. I mean, episode like this might go to a sales audience, but like, what have I not asked you? Is there anything that you sort of in this like learnings at scale thing, you'd be kind of like remiss to not mention? Final tips or anything like that?
I think it's worth mentioning to founders that your product is not as cool as you think it is. I know they're going to be like, wait, what are you talking about? It's like, your product doesn't sell. It doesn't sell on its own. So you can't overcomplicate it. You can't overwhelm somebody with all the things it can do. And founders make this mistake all the time. They fall in love with their baby and they want to talk about the 101 different things it can do. People don't buy that way. People buy based on 2 or 3 points of data that emotionally impact them. And then they ask questions if they're curious about other stuff it can do, 3 or 4 other things. And then they're just like, okay, I'm sold. Right? Think about buying a car. You know how many different things the car can do? How many of those things did you ask questions about? Not very many. How many of those things did the salesperson try to talk to you about? If it's a shitty car salesman, they probably tried to explain to you everything about the car. You don't need that. When I go buy a car, I just want to know, how much does it cost? Do you have the color that I want? Is this thing safe? What's the gas mileage? All right, I'm good. That's it. If you sit there and talk to me about the engine size and the braking speed and whatever, I don't care about all that stuff. I'm just like, bro, leave me alone, dude. You're about to blow a sale right now. And founders make this mistake all the time. So you need to simplify your message, distill all the 101 crazy things that you do down to like 2 or 3 main points, and then just be ready to have the prospect ask you questions. And you're like, yep, I got an answer for that. Oh, yep, we handle that. You're going to seem way, way smarter and more prepared if you do it that way.
100%. That's awesome. Scott,
yeah, man.
This has been a blast. Thanks so much for coming on the show, and hope to see you down here in Puerto Rico. Open invite.
If I can get out that way. Thanks, Max.